Charles Warren, and I'll be your moderator this evening. I'm substituting for the Montgomery County League of Women Voters President, Judy Snoke, who's not feeling well this evening. So please join me in sending wishes her way. Welcome to the Christiansburg Town Council Candidate Forum. The forum's co-sponsors with the Montgomery County League of Women Voters are the Montgomery County, Radford City, Floyd County branch of the NAACP, the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, NRV chapter, and the News Messenger. If you would join me in standing now in pledging allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. This forum is being videotaped by a county videographer, and the video will be available on YouTube with a link at www.lmvmcva.org, and it will be replayed on the county's local access TV channel 190. The forum guidelines and the Christiansburg Town Council Voter Guide have been distributed to the audience. Copies of all the voter guides will be on our website. Paper copies of voter guides for all Montgomery County candidates will be in the public libraries. Voter guides for the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general and candidates for the House of Delegates are on www.vote411.org. I'm going to repeat that since it's new. www.vote411.org. It is our custom in these forums to have non-Blacksburg residents play the important roles in the Blacksburg Town Council candidate forums, and non-Christiansburg residents play the important roles in the Christiansburg Town Council candidate forums. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you tonight's screeners of questions, Darlene Allen, Carol Linker, and Phyllis Albritton. And the timers, Karen Frazier and Allison Wilson. We encourage you to ask questions. I already have several that you submitted. And during the course of the forum, helpers will be all around the room, and if you want to submit another question, please do so. The screeners will review the questions mainly for purposes of eliminating duplication. We ask that you reserve all applause until the end of the forum. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you the 5 candidates who will be speaking with you this evening. Sam Bishop, David Franisich, Cord Hall, Steve Huppert, and Brad Stipes. We're also pleased to welcome in the audience tonight Mayor Mike Barber, who is running unopposed. Mayor Barber, we're pleased you're here. The question period will end at 8:45 this evening, and each candidate will then have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. All mobile communications devices must be turned off during the forum as a courtesy to the candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question, and please keep your eye on the timers. They will be letting you know. And then you will have, after each candidate responds to a given question, you would have a 30-second rebuttal period if you wish. That is up to you. Just let me know. So we'll begin with Mr. Bishop. Christiansburg is no exception to the disappearing downtown retail area. How can we change this? Bring more people back to downtown. Change the flow.
All right, one thing we can do is advertisement. Put the word out, let people know what downtown offers. You know, once again, there is a lot. I call it old downtown myself, but people don't know what's down here. You drive by, you see no signs really telling you what is in the shop, what's going on. So I think we, as the town as a whole, just get out ourselves and put the word out. Advertisement, word of mouth. We do Parks and Recreation. put out some other information. So once again, it's just getting the word out and move some people from, I'm calling it 114 neighborhood to downtown. Let them know we do have something there in our small town.
Thank you. Mr. Francisich.
I think that downtown Christiansburg really does have a lot to offer. It has a lot more potential than people give it credit for. As a co-founder of Downtown Christiansburg, Inc., we've already experienced this where we're trying to bring people downtown to really enliven it again by doing a small series of events this past summer. But I think we need to work more closely with property owners and developers to really incentivize unique businesses to come back to downtown, to make downtown a destination again, and not just some place you drive through. We've done a nice job so far with some of the sidewalk improvements, but I think we can take that farther. And hopefully, with the new County Emergency Services building, we can really really enliven the town square and do a better job of bringing people downtown again. I mean, Christiansburg has a lot of history, and it's right there in downtown. I think that Christiansburg is really yearning for that sense of community that a vibrant downtown can bring.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Mr. Bishop mentioned about trying to market the downtown. He's correct. There's other ways we could also do it by utilizing our entrance ways, which would be at the Recreation Center, at the Aquatic Center. We can utilize our town website, which is very interactive at this point. It offers a lot more than what we've had in the past. We can also eliminate some of the preclusions for businesses to actually want to relocate to downtown. There's a CBD, there's parking restrictions that are currently in place right now, which we could relax. We've already engaged in beautification efforts downtown, and you know, David doesn't want to mention tonight, but frankly, the last downtown event we had, he helped to put on. 2,000 people came downtown, so there's certainly a yearning for that. He needs to toot his own horn once in a while. But we have certain things in the means to which to actually, again, market this. It's just a matter of whether or not we take that next step. We also have a public relations officer that's on staff now. They can also help us to get these words out. But again, certain things we do have to look at from a council standpoint, which is to relieve some of the burdens right now that certain businesses have to try to relocate to downtown. We can do that hopefully in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Mr. Huppert.
You know, I'm going to give David a plug here too. I think many of you were here when he had the food rodeo, and there were 2,000 people who showed up. And I think that just shows that people of Christiansburg want to come to downtown and they want to do things, but I think the biggest key is leadership. We need somebody who is going to be able to start that, like David and his group did it. I'm going to tell you this, on Friday night, the fellow who is running for District D, he is going to have a band there inside the mall, and going to have some people distributing food. I think it's going to go from like 6 to 9 o'clock. So the people like this who are starting things, and they say, hey, these things are working. These things are paying off. The Wilderness Trail Days, is so successful too. And now, it has not been mentioned yet, but we do have a tourism office. And we've had the tourism office here for about a year, and she is getting involved in these things, and through all three components. And I think that is going to be a thing to help downtown Christiansburg. So between tourism and leadership and being a little bit aggressive and doing something, I think that's going to be a big key.
Thank you. Mr. Stipes.
I agree with the comments that have been made here. A few other things that I've supported since, and I think are noteworthy in an effort to bring more people downtown, or locating the Aquatic Center where it is. I heard a lot of people visiting the downtown area as a result of that. The Huckleberry Trail extension is planned, encouraging people to have access to the downtown area. The plans are underway to bring Huckleberry to the downtown area. I don't need to tell you how exciting that'll be to bring people in to town on hoof and on bicycles, as well as the Christiansburg Institute building, the Ed Ray Long building. This whole corridor through here is, I can see, not just want it, I can see it happening. Sidewalks, we are building more sidewalks in the downtown area to make it easier for people to get downtown, and of course supporting the grant program, and also making sure that the downtown area is safe with the enhancement projects, the crosswalks and so forth. But there are a lot of things that were okay.
Thank you very much. Mr. Francis, we will begin with you on the second question. The park and ride lot at Falling Branch School has caused many problems at the school. What is your opinion of what needs to be done?
Well, I think we need to continue what the town is already looking to doing, which is finding another location for the parking ride and working with VDOT to really find a better location for that. It's kind of unfortunate. I mean, park and rides provide a really good service for people who want to ride share or take the bus or what have you. But having it right next to the school like that without any amenities, it just is asking for trouble. So I think if we could work with both the county, the state, and other local agencies and really find a better place for that, whether it's down further on Roanoke Street or somewhere else in general, or maybe move all of it to another park and ride.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
It's poor planning from inception to locate that parking right that close to the school. And not only that, it's also overcapacity. I've been out there many times taking pictures and videos of the area. People parking along the side of the road, restricting bus access. Individuals walking across the road there and actually entering the schools. Individuals who would be released from a mental institution being located and actually named by their bracelets they wear, with being the only form of identification that they had. It's a mess. It needs to be relocated. I think efforts have been taken already to try to do this. We actually called down and had someone from VDOT that came down from home office. We've been involved with the Megabus and some other entities that are utilizing that as a service. Not only that, Mr. Showalter and I both had approached the school and actually brought the school here and actually had the questions for them as to what we can do as a group. And unfortunately, I think at times it somewhat fell on deaf ears. We're not willing to drop the ball on that. We're actually moving forward on that, and actually I think there are some things in place over the next couple of years that can be a figment of the past as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard.
I would like to give a thing to Cord and to Henry Showalter. And I think that people who are aware of what's been going on concerning the park and ride and concerning the problems that they've had at Falling Branch will recognize that the Christiansburg Town Council was a leader in this and getting this going. There are going to be, I think that's one of the best things about this is there is a joint organization between Christiansburg and Montgomery County, and we are actually working together on this. And I think you're going to see a lot, they are working to find a new place for the park and ride. We don't need it. Now, one good thing about the park and ride, and when we get this moved, when we get this changed, it has been a tremendous success. You try to get things like this going, and this thing has quadrupled, and we haven't really realized it. So when we get this organized, and it will get organized, okay? Now, it takes time, but it will be done. And you're going to see it's going to be a great asset for everybody in the community.
Mr. Stipes?
I'm not often critical of the county, but I would venture to say that the location of a Falling Branch Elementary School sandwiched between Industrial Park and the interstate could have been given a second thought because the industrial park was there. I do support the park and ride as it serves a very important public function, but it is not working, and we are addressing that. And as Steve Hubbard said, we are actively working for a solution on that. The efforts are underway, and actually, I agree with Steve that you will see some remedy of this. But I do think that it's actually the result of unanticipated success of the park and ride program. It's outgrown its root bound now, and the problems are clear and evident, and they do need to be addressed, and we are addressing them.
Thank you. Mr. Bishop?
All right, the park and ride, I can honestly say that I have attended council meetings and observed our current council working on that problem. Ideally, yes, is to move it to another location. That second part to that is where would we move it, where would not cause more traffic congestion or concern to the neighborhoods. Once again, the big concern with the park and ride is people getting off and going to the elementary schools. Based on that, right now, most of the taking care of the school is done by Christiansburg Police Department. They're trying to get the county to take some responsibility. So once again, we need to pull the county and the state and the town all get involved and find out where can we move this park and ride, which serves a good purpose, where will not be a bad influence for anyone.
Right.
I'd like to add.
Yes, please.
I have 30 seconds to add a few points. I think one thing that town citizens need to be aware of is, as we move forward, I think it was blatantly obvious from the meeting we had with VDOT, and we pulled those community leaders in, that whatever we want, they're willing to abide by as long as we foot the bill for it. And so the reality is that we're going to bear some type of cost as a town on trying to relocate that parking ride. The amenities were basically placed there by the county, and they were done so, it didn't quite fit the purpose. It needs to be something a little more in grander scale. But the reality is, be aware that if we go forward on it, which we will be, it likely will be incurring financial hardship to the town.
Any other additions?
You know, I have just recently attended a meeting, and there were 2 nominations of new locations for this park and ride. And they've talked to VDOT and the county and Christiansburg, and they are exploring these things. And I think that you're gonna see something in the real near future about actually something being done. It's not just a lot of hot air that's being put out.
Any other additions? Thank you. Mr. Hall? What progress has Christiansburg made in the area of open government?
What progress have we made? In every area that can possibly be progressed in far as open government is concerned. Since I've been on council, we've not had any FOIA issues that I'm aware of. Personally, I can speak for my position on it. I insist on public disclosures. The most recent council meeting we had, I insisted that we have the opinion from our legal team disclosed to the public. I'm a public servant. Everything that I have, you have. If you don't have full information at your disposal at all times, you can't hold me accountable for my actions, for my decisions. You can't hold anybody accountable. I don't like back rooms. I don't like backroom deals. I don't like dealing with people outside of or dealing with council on an outside basis. I like open discussions. I like public forums. You know, I have a personal vendetta against the appearance of impropriety, quite frankly. I don't tolerate it. I won't. I think that we've made great strides over the last 3 years to do this and to get beyond that point. There were FOIA issues the town's suffered from in the past. Again, that's not on my watch.
Mr. Huppert?
I think council has taken a tremendous step towards open government in the last 4 or 5 years. And I think you can just see here that the press is here tonight. All of our meetings are advertised well in advance. Everything is done up front. Everyone on council and on the staff is cognizant of the effect that everyone needs to be involved. And even, I'm sure that you read something in the paper just recently concerning maybe after Mr. Barber is elected, who will be filling that spot. That we're working on that to make sure everyone is aware of what we're doing, and nothing will be done behind closed doors.
Thank you, Mr. Stipes.
The progress in open government didn't start 3 years ago. I would offer that it started about 7 years ago. When I took office, within 2 months of being elected, I promoted the idea of a new town website that at the beginning was not very warmly received, but that has evolved very quickly, and it now contains very current information about all town activities, public notifications, alerts. You can pay your bills online now, and there's opportunities for citizens to be involved at all levels of town government. It started with the website, and I've supported every initiative, including the hiring of a public information officer to help get the word out and let the people know what our town government is doing for them and what we can do for them to address their concerns and be involved with the process.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bishop?
As far as what has the town done, I gotta say they have come a long way compared to what they were doing maybe say 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years ago, you couldn't even find the town on the internet. You know, get very little information if you got on there. But now you're able to go on the internet and get town information. You can make the request and you can get it. I'm not sure on the time frame, but it's not like they're trying to hide anything now. So once again, I just feel, once again, as Mr. Hall has, that we need to be open to you, the citizens. You know, we shouldn't have anything to hide. There's going to be times you go behind closed doors for, say, personnel issues. But for other things, this town needs to be open to its citizens.
Mr. Francis?
I think the town needs to be commended on its strides in making government more open in the past few years. You know, gone are the days of all decisions being made behind closed doors in 30-minute town council meetings, rather, where it was just bang, bang, bang. Let's get out of here. I think specifically the new website that was just launched last week or a couple weeks ago is fantastic. I think it's much easier to use. Everything's much easier to access, especially you're going to be able to see with the recodification of the town code, it's going to be all accessible electronically. I think that's going to be fantastic. I personally really enjoy the email alerts, letting me know what streets are going to be closed, letting me know when public hearings are. I think that's you're doing a fantastic job. Of course, strides can always be made to do better, but I think that the town's come a long way.
Thank you. Additional comments?
I would request 30 more seconds, Mr. Warren.
Yes.
A few things that weren't also mentioned. Since I've been on council, we now have agenda packets. That means that everything that we see, we have, that we get a chance to review to make our decisions, you all have access to. That was not something that was going on 4 or 5 years ago. That's something that's been going on for about 3 years. Something else I've fought a lot for is CUP disclosures. It's been an ongoing struggle for 24 months. Now, every CUP in town, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CUPs, which allow, that have certain provisions in place. Those are now allowed on, they're online. There's a little flag. You go into the GIS and you can click on that. And that way, if you live next to a place that has a CUP, you can actually see what those requirements are. Before, you had to come down here, find it yourself to make that request. And it was way too difficult. Now it's much more interactive.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a comment. I agree with Councilman Hall's input there, and he was instrumental in changing the way we get our agendas and get them out. I'd also like to mention that about 5 years ago, during the development of the website, it might have been 5 to 6 years ago, when the website was under development, it became apparent that the town code was embarrassingly outdated, and that process has taken several years to do, but it is being completed now and being put on Unicode. But that's another important aspect of letting people know what the rules are. Okay, sorry.
Anyone else? Mr. Huppert, we'll begin with you, but this question is a little more complex. There were any number of questions about the Aquatic Center. I'm going to do my best to combine them and have you speak to all the elements that were raised in these various questions. And we may need to come back to this at some point. But the Aquatic Center has been of discussion as of late. What are your feelings of where it needs to go? That's the general overarching question. Making the Aquatic Center successful will require investing in it to expand hours and offerings. Are you willing to do this? And now, why is the Aquatic Center always a subject matter at election time when the revenue from the CAC is double that of the Recreation Center with the same budget? That's a multifaceted question.
That's a good question, though, too. And I am a supporter of the Aquatic Center, and there are a number of reasons why I am. And you did bring out a good point. The Aquatic Center brought in revenue of around $900,000 last year, which was more than the Rec Center. And I tell you, one of the things that I think that is so good about the Aquatic Center, if you're going to come into a community, and let's say you're a company or a corporation or even a person, maybe the first thing you look at, what kind of real estate? Are there homes to come to? All right? The second thing you're probably going to look at is a school system. Do they have a decent school system? And the third thing is recreation. And if you look at what Christiansburg has, the type of recreation department we have here today, the rec center, Hark River Sporting Goods, and the Aquatic Center, these are things that go there. Now, why do they sometimes bought out the Aquatic Center before the Rec Center? Sometimes not all the people, as many people use the Aquatic Center as maybe the Rec Center. But it has so many other important things here. And so I think you should always think about that. And I would like to add some more to it a little bit later.
Thank you. Mr. Stipes.
Taking my seat on council in September of '06 for the first time, it was 2 years, the $13 million bond to construct it had been issued, and by the time I took my seat on council, the site work was beginning, and we were all watching it develop. And I think it's incumbent on everyone on this council, whoever's on it now and whoever's on it in January, to be 110% behind the Aquatic Center, and with everything that's in us to support it. We've invested in it, And like anything, we have to track progress and measure the costs, and they are very significant. The Aquatic Center accounts for close to 10% of our annual budget. So knocking on the door of 10%, that's huge. It's about 50% more than the recreation program, the recreation center and the program. So I am supportive of the Aquatic Center, and I think it's incumbent on every member of council to be that way and to support it.
Thank you. Mr. Bishop?
Where the center needs to go, one, it needs to be more open to the citizens of this town, not for big swim mates to come in and use and take up your time work. Citizens of the town can't even go in on a weekend or weekdays to enjoy the pool, the building. You know, are we gonna tear it down? No, we're not gonna tear it down. We got too much money invested, and why would you tear down a new building? What can we do is, once again, advertise the location, let people know we have this, it's a nice center. But let the public know that they're welcome to it. Make time for the public to come. Try to answer one of the other questions. Why does this always come up during election time? I have no idea. That's fine.
We could probably guess. Mr. Fennessy?
I'm going to answer the second part of that question first. I do know why it comes up during election because, as was mentioned, including the debt service, the budget for the Aquatic Center makes around 10% of the town's budget. And for the amount of people that use it, resident members of the Aquatic Center are only 3% of the town's population. For the amount of money spent, it seems a little out of ratio to me. The Aquatic Center is a great facility. I'm not denying that. It has great staff. But unfortunately, I believe for it to be successful going forward, we really need to look and have a plan of action to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cut here, 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 or we're going to invest here, here, and here. As long as we have a plan to show what can be done and that we're actually going to get a return on it, then absolutely I'm willing to invest in the Aquatic Center. And I don't see how you can compare it to the Rec Center with Parks and Rec. The Rec Center is free to use for town residents. It has 20% of the town's population has membership at the Rec Center. Not to mention all the people who go there for programs and other things.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hall?
I don't believe it only comes up during election time. Anyone's paid attention to our budget every year, it's always coming up. And it's always been an issue I've brought up ever since the first day I came on council. The difference between the Aquatic Center and the Recreation Center is similar to what David said. About 80% of the people in town are utilizing the Recreation Center. It is free. It offers a multi-variety of activities across genders and across demographics. It caters to everyone, from the 2-year-olds that I bring up there when I have my toddler group, to the senior citizens of our town. The Aquatic Center, if you're there, you're swimming. For the most part, you're swimming. It's a gross disparity. If you look at the numbers of the Aquatic Center, it actually has the capacity to undermine other things that we're doing in other areas of the town. We currently are spending over $3 million a year on the Aquatic Center. We have, the paper has quoted that we've had 1.2 to 1.3 million a year that we have to supplement it. That doesn't include the debt service plus the interest payments. It's over $2 million a year. It's very clear what the numbers are. It's not an economic engine. It doesn't drive things. We have a good staff. It's a beautiful facility, but the truth is the truth. That's the reality of the situation.
Additional comments, Mr. Huckabee?
I would like to add some. There are some ways that you cannot measure whether a thing is successful or not. I'm going to bring up a point tomorrow. They're going to have a swim meet at the Aquatic Center for the college. I think it's Virginia Tech, VMI, University of North Carolina, Liberty, VCU. They're going to have a swim meet there. Now, after that swim meet, they're going to go eat at a restaurant. They're going to go get gasoline. They may even go to the mall. That is what we have. We generate our money from our sales tax, from the restaurants and the motels.
I'll request 30 additional
please.
seconds. The reality is that we need to renegotiate the contract we have with Tech. They pay us $250 for prior usage of a pool, which $160,000 that goes to the interest of the payment to make it bond ready, to make it ACC ready. We're not even utilizing it for ACC tournaments anymore. We've got to renegotiate it. We've got to reevaluate, and I think that actually reorganize the Aquatic Center itself. We have to go below $3 million a year to operate that facility. Furthermore, if you look at our meals and our meals tax and our lodging tax, there's no attributable spikes in any fashion since we've opened the Aquatic Center. If you look at the increases that we've garnered from that, it's only because of the percentages we've increased as a tax rate.
Thank you. Any other additional comments?
Yes. I understand that the the swim meet, college teams will no longer be able to use that center for swimming because it's considered as home territory for Virginia Tech. If that's true, then the money that was coming in for meals, that money's gone. So once again, don't count on the college providing us funds for meals.
Yes.
Can you give me 15 minutes? One other thing I would like to say, Mr. Hall was just saying here that people just go there to swim. But I think anybody who's been over there has seen the therapeutic pool, okay? People who need support, who need help for if they don't have the aquatic center, they don't have any place to go. That is an additional thing that a lot of people don't think about. It was also brought out saying that during swim meets that the leisure pool is closed, but that is not true. In most cases, swim meets, the leisure pool remains open.
I'm going to allow anyone who has already used 30 seconds, another 15 seconds if you wish, and if you haven't used your 30 seconds, you're open to that as well.
I'll take 15 seconds, sir. The problem with going forward on the aquatic center, the issue we have is we had no business plan after it was created. And the business plan we actually had from inception back in 2009 by the council grossly and inadequately represented what it was going to cost to run it. That's the situation. The reason why it's still valid is because certain members of council who were on
Thank
council
you.
then were responsible for not having the business plan.
Thank you. This is obviously a very important topic. Mr. Stipes, how do you propose to bring good-paying jobs to Christiansburg, not just service jobs, which are low-paying?
It's a good question, and I think central to making Christiansburg attractive for business is making it a place where people want to live. When screenings are going on, we're now on the top 10 from, what was it, Money Nerd, top 10. And the way we do that is to make this a place where people want to move their businesses and their employees want to live, and they see this as being a long-term investment for their company. And we have a very capable industrial park to do that. We have the nearby higher education facilities, and this is the ideal place to live. But I think we focus on making this a livable community, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
What we need to do is, once again, market this town. Let's tell the business world what do we have to offer them as far as close to the interstate, close to the railroad station, close to airlines. Let's reach out to them, see what do you need, what do you want to move to a town, to a location this size. If they decide to come, we need to offer them, the employees, good, affordable housing. If they don't have anywhere to live, they're not going to move to Christiansburg. So we need to, once again, reach out and bring them in by saying, this is what we can give you. Even though we're a small town, we still have a lot to offer you.
Mr. Francis?
I do think that making Christiansburg a more livable community will go a long way to bringing good-paying jobs to Christiansburg. I don't know that there's so much that Christiansburg town government can actually do directly to bring jobs in, but we can make it a more attractive place, both by removing barriers to development in the downtown area especially. We can downtown revitalization, make that a very attractive area to come. Granted, you won't get large companies coming down there, but you have a very vibrant downtown that's very attractive to the kinds of companies that do bring good-paying jobs. Redoing pedestrian infrastructure, good-paying jobs, come with those sort of things, those sort of amenities. We really need to rely on the private sector to come and bring those jobs. Work with Montgomery County Economic Development. They already have their hands in a lot of places where these companies have good-paying jobs that want to come to this area. We are right next to 81. We are right next to Virginia Tech. With all the access to the research and facilities there, I think that Christiansburg is a prime spot to really create some good jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
It begins with fiscal responsibility. I'll explain that to mean that if you have money in your reserves, you have the money to provide incentives to business to relocate. It's also dependent upon the type of company, but we do this right now. We have companies that approach Christiansburg about relocating here, and there may be the request for us to waive certain fees, to waive connect sewer lines, we've got water lines. And these things are recommended and come through our Economic Development Committee. If we are not proper stewards of public money, we don't have the money then to entice and be able to waive those fees. We're in a position of then having to charge. And that is a big issue coming forward from all these companies that actually approach us. We currently have a competitive center, which helps to foster some of your smaller, some of the high-tech jobs, if you will, but some of the smaller companies. But we have to keep our business taxes low. We have to keep our policies consistent with one another. And by keeping our business taxes low, again, it's because we have to have proper money usage, efficient uses of our money, that we don't have to keep continually raising taxes and rates and costs across the town. One of those that's been hit recently because of stewardship or poor stewardship would have been the actual business taxes. Those have been increased recently.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard.
Tell you, one reason I got on town council is because over the last 35 years I've lived here, I have developed a passion for Christiansburg. And I think that's probably why a lot of you people live here today. We have so much going for us. We are close to Interstate 81. We have 2 universities right near us who bring in high-quality people. We have a community college there. We have tremendous weather. We also, I heard in the next 30 years, there are going to be 10,000 additional homes built here. So Christiansburg has just got so much going for it. And to make it, and I've already discussed about the housing, the recreation, and the things like this that people look for to come here. And I think if you look at it, you're going to say, hey, we should maybe go here.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, I'd like to overlook perhaps probably the most important comment in this quickly. We need to shed the past, shed the view of the past that our jurisdictional boundaries end at Christiansburg. Working with Blacksburg and Virginia Tech, our latest industry in the Fallen Branch Industrial Park is Novozymes from Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. We've working with our neighbors with Blacksburg Transit and the Joinder study. All these are huge attention getters for people wanting to locate an industry here.
Anyone else?
This was a 30 seconds rule. Yes, as was mentioned earlier, Christiansburg was listed as one of the top 10 places where job seekers come. And it also mentioned that Christiansburg was like number 3 as far as unemployment. Why are we have so much unemployment in this town? To me, there are small businesses that, I know the question was for large business, but let's get the unemployed and then bring other people in.
Anyone else? Thank you. In keeping with the theme of good-paying jobs, I have 2 companion questions, and we'll start with Mr. Bishop. What would you suggest to increase the salaries of town employees to provide top-notch benefits in order to retain these employees in Christiansburg? And another audience member asked, what steps would you take to make sure town employees are performing well? What kind of employee performance evaluation would you like?
All right. One, how would you increase pay? To be honest with you, that's a tough question for me to answer. I think the only way you could increase pay, you're going to have to cut services out. But once again, now what services can you cut out that's not going to affect the town? And to get into the pay increase, a lot of places look like it's paid per merit. So, you get a certain increase on your review, you get a pay increase. I don't know if it's good or bad, because once again, you got different supervisors and see people working differently. So they can get a different score. What you need, what you should do is, I'm sure there's some type of consultant out there that we can contact to get their input. As far as me sitting here giving you an answer tonight, all I can tell you is, if I get elected, I will look into it.
Thank you. Please.
I think it's really hard to talk about raising employee salaries when we're running a deficit every year. But I think that if we were going to talk about it, these questions go hand in hand, because if you're going to raise salaries, it absolutely needs to be merit-based. I think we need to maybe model after the private sector. I know that my job, I am performance reviewed quarterly, and I'm talked to directly and say, hey, here's what you're doing right, here's what you're doing wrong, here's how you can do better. Yes, you're going to get a raise, no, you're not. I think it's really important. That's how you retain quality people, is merit-based raises and bonuses. And I think that's really the way that the town needs to go. Yes, we may have to invest a little money in order to do that, but we might be able to do it with just a shift in the way we do things.
Mr. Hall.
I think that anybody in this room that works in the private sector has experienced letdown after letdown in the last 5 to 10 years economically. It's hurt our town, our home budgets. based on things that we've lost as a benefit, or I should say, of having a job and keeping that job. Our employees are treated extremely fairly if you consider it across the marketplace. They are paid very well. Their benefit package, I would dare to say, probably exceeds anything you're going to find in the private sector. We currently have a study out that was requested by the town. We've approved it to study it, to look at the pay scales. But a few of us on council, I'm being one of those, demanded that they also have to consider the private sector as well when they study that. The public sector, I mean, there's a reason why we have an influx of people wanting to come to the town of Christiansburg to work, because we're competitive with anybody around us. In fact, we exceed anyone around us. As far as raising rates, I think they're already compensated very well. I do not believe in comp time for directors or department heads, and I will never support raising taxes to allow for a tax. I'm sorry, for a pay raise. I'm not going to tax citizens so if someone else can benefit while we lower their home budget. That doesn't make some sense to me if you're trying to economically drive your town.
Mr. Huppert?
You know, we are going to give employees a 2% pay raise for Christmas. And you say, well, that's not very much. And we realize that. But let me tell you what the situation is right now. Over the last several years, revenue has gone down during this recession. We're getting less money from the federal government, far less money from the state government. But at the same time, we need to keep on providing services. We got a fire department, we got rescue squad, we got police department, we got snow removal, we got road improvement. The line keeps on going over. People want to have these things, okay, and we want to give them to them. But on the other hand, sometimes we just can't do everything. We can't keep on giving pay raises and also give all these things right here. So it's a touchy situation, not only for us, but any government in the entire country doing that. Now concerning the studying there, okay, I'll get in there. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Stokes?
I believe that the town of Christiansburg is an employer of choice. I hear that from other localities and from people who are working or have worked for the town. I think that's a good sign. I think our staff is lean and mean. I think the hiring freeze that's been in place for several years now people have risen up to the occasion, and there is a lot more efficiency than was, I can easily say, more than 4 years ago. The study that's underway was actually a spinoff from a way to shed some of the arcane compensation practices, including tenure for every year over 10 years of pay and so forth. And the step increase discussion is what led to the compensation study. And like any major issue with the town, as that study is completed, we'll consider the merits, the validity as council member decides.
Thank you. Additional?
I'll request 30 seconds. When being on council, during my first 6 months to a year, I requested from the town manager that we be given information about a merit-based system of pay raises. I don't know where that's at. I don't know where we're at on that. We've always had an entitlement approach to raises in this town, but the merit-based system, it's been talked about, it's been kind of thrown back and forth. I don't have an answer for any of you as to why we don't have a merit-based pay rate or a merit-based system of evaluation. We just don't. Now, the police department does it internally themselves. There's a couple of departments that do that. But overall, I can't offer a good explanation for that. I don't know why we don't do that. I think it's inefficient not to undertake that policy, but we can't get anybody to move on it as far as council majority.
Mr. Huppert?
On that, I wanted to, each department, and Cora just brought it up that the police department does this, several departments does this. You get screened every year on what you're doing and what you're not doing by your department head. So we do have a somewhat checks and balances done within each department.
Anyone else? Mr. Franisich? And in your previous answers, you've touched upon answers to these questions a bit, so I think we can combine two questions. How do you see the town of Christiansburg working with Blacksburg and Montgomery County and the school board currently and going forward? And do you see the Virginia Tech Foundation Research Center competing with the industrial park?
That's a big question. Going forward, I think that the relationship between Christiansburg, Blacksburg, and the county needs to be a lot more cooperative. In the past, it's been a lot more antagonistic, and I think that that's not productive to anybody's relationship or to anybody's productivity. I think that making sure that Christiansburg has a seat at the table, whether that means having the councils and the board of supervisors meet more regularly than they do. I don't think they meet very regularly at all right now. But having them meet so everybody knows what's going on with each other, I think having try to have a little more transparency at the county level so the citizens know what's going on with the county. I've talked to so many people who have no idea what's going on with the new emergency services building. But to answer the second part of that question, yes, possibly the Corporate Research Center would compete with Christiansburg, but it does offer more office-type environments and not so much industrial, whereas our industrial park can offer larger swaths of land with more warehouse-type uses or...
Thank you.
I hate,
Mr. Hall.
I hate to kind of take off what David was saying, but the two types of agencies or organizations that are going to be marketed to by the Corporate Research Center or Industrial Park are not in and of the same. There are some similarities, but it's not going to affect us to the detriment. The bigger question there, I think you mentioned about the school board and the way we would deal with school board of supervisors. I don't feel that Christiansburg is adequately represented on the school board or the board of supervisors. I think our seat at the table, that we kind of get the scraps a little bit. Prime example is when we had our issue with the Fallen Branch initiative with the park and ride. I don't think a single member of the school board was here, although they were all invited, or the superintendent. I don't understand that. Our board of supervisors did have 2 members here present. Another prime example that kind of demonstrates us being this poor cousin, we have meetings that conflict with the school board. We can't even attend as a council member. I've moved to actually change those every year I've been on council, and I've had a 3-4-4-2 or a 3-3, and I can't even get the meetings changed to where I can come here on a Thursday so I can go to a school board meeting. I don't understand how I can adequately represent Christiansburg at school board if I can't even show up. There's no explanation that anybody can give me that will explain why we are so dogmatic that we are never wrong on our meeting times.
Mr. Huppert.
I went to the research center and the industrial park. The way I look at it is two different animals. And I look at the research center, anybody who's been over there, that is doing so much for this community, probably more than anything else. And one of the things that's helping Christiansburg out of there is all those are high-paying jobs that are going into the research center. A lot of people cannot move into Blacksburg because of their zonings. So they're going to look to Christiansburg to live. So it's going to really be a big plus for us as these people who are working in the research center come and live in Christiansburg and live in the Christiansburg community. Another thing I would like to say concerning the relationship between the county and even Blacksburg and Christiansburg. This year I'm the vice mayor, and just yesterday we had a breakfast meeting and between the county, Blacksburg, and Christiansburg, and we all sat down there and talked about what's going on and how we can help each other out and doing different things. I think there's a good relationship between all the 3 entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stipes.
This question has given me an opportunity to make a better statement about my worldview on the town of Christiansburg in context of the larger picture here. What is good for the town of Blacksburg, what is good for Virginia Tech, what is good for Montgomery County is also good for the town of Christiansburg. There are different products. I agree with Mr. Hubbard. CRC is mod products. I work over there. It's very interesting to see what's going on inside my own building. It's fascinating, actually. But those are mod products. BT Knowledge Works and Christiansburg and our industrial park is more making stuff. And if you don't believe what I'm telling you about us working together and taking a worldview of seeing that, just go ask Galax or Marion. We're here because of the draw to be here.
Mr. Bishop.
As far as the town and county and Blacksburg working together, I think they get along, but they need to come to the table more often. I think I've heard last week that they might have met, the county and Christiansburg might have met twice this year. How are they going to work together if they don't come and meet together? Granted, I know they're going to have to be aware of what could be considered as a meeting behind closed doors. But sometimes you can get more done away from the office. Go out and have lunch. Talk about some problems that you'll have in both town and county and work it out. As far as the industrial park in Blacksburg, I'm really not that familiar with them, but I'm pretty sure that there's two different type of industries going on. I don't feel that there really be conflict between the two. But I just think the county, the town, need to come to the table more often than they do.
Thank you. Any additional, Mr. Hubbard?
You know, this sort of combines some of the topics we've already done, but when we talked about the park and ride, and we also now talk about cooperation, I know yesterday at the meeting that I was just talking about, our mayor, Mayor Balangi, talked to Jim Politis, and they are arranging a meeting that we're gonna have a joint meeting between our town council and the board of supervisors in the near future, basically to discuss the park and ride. So I think that is one major item there that of unity between the two organizations.
I'll take additional 30 seconds, please. We need, as Mr. Bishop put forth, quarterly meetings. We've had one that I'm aware of, and we advertise it, so it's a regular meeting. And it got me a chance to actually get to know the board of supervisors members on a more personal level. I appreciate that, and I like that. As far as, again, the cooperation, things are getting better, but you have to remember, and I don't know why this answer is the way it is, but school boards set their meetings after Blacksburg and Christiansburg set their town council meetings, and they only conflicted with us and not Blacksburg. Furthermore, had certain members of council not brought to the forefront those issues with school security, I don't think any other entity is going to bring that up so respond to. The board of supervisors was aware of it, so was school board. So again, we are, my time's up.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, if you would begin this one. I might point out that there was a member of the audience who had an interest in the conflict of meeting times with the other entities.
Can I ask one question, Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Are we able to ask a question of another person that's sitting up here?
Not, that is not in the
I mean, as far as on the topic we just discussed.
That is not
Okay.
in the format.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. What approaches do you think should be adopted to address the stormwater problems throughout Christiansburg?
Ms. Lynch's in the front row.
You notice I didn't combine that with anything.
And,
Drive.
driving through Cambria, let's see, the last couple of days, they had what looks like water cannons out there blowing the dirt and debris and the mud off of the next to the building. I understand through Facebook that people are out there till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, keeping the water out of the buildings. Stormwater management, it starts with proper development. It starts with proper planning to ensure that we actually have the externalities that are imposed by a developer or by someone who is involved with manufacturing, a home or wherever they're going to place that at, they're well aware of those externalities. In my opinion, in times past, we simply would develop for the purpose of developing. I don't think there was a whole lot of planning that went into it. I think things are different now. I think we've taken steps forward on that. As far as stormwater management, that's also being dealt with at the state level, and there's certain things the town council will have to deal with, some harsh realities we're going to live with in the next 2 to 3 years, as far as certain requirements now that we hand down from the state. We're certainly actively working on that right now, but in my opinion, it is a externality imposed by development that was improperly planned.
Thank you, Mr. Huppert.
That's a lot of truth in that. Of course, Wayne Nelson is our head engineer, and I think that they are working as diligently as they can to support this. This can be a problem, and not even just not in Cambria, but in other areas within the town of Christiansburg. And I was talking to the town manager yesterday, we were talking about that, and how important it is for people to notify if there's something that they feel that is inadequate in their neighborhood. And hopefully between the town manager and Mr. Nelson, the thing is going to be rectified. And if that is not rectified, people do come here, and Ms. Lindstrom has been here to tell council how things need to be fixed, and we need to make sure that they try to do that.
Mr. Stipes, thank you.
As watersheds are developed, it means become impervious, runoff increases, stormwater runoff increases. This is a law of nature. This is what's happening in town. We know where the problems are, and we are proactively addressing those. We have 2 significant projects in our capital improvement budget this year. One in the Cambria area and one on Independence Drive to address known problems. Those are slightly less than $1 million combined. That's a significant investment. We have plans in place to tighten up our stormwater ordinance and our subdivision ordinance to protect the homes such as New River Village that have had problems, even recent developments, to make sure that those we have fewer of those problems in the future. And I have advocated vociferously for the stormwater management plan to address some very real needs both now and in the future, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
What we need to do is rely on our experts. You know, I'm not an expert in water runoff. I mean, I know what caused it. There's a lot of water in one place, one time. You know, that's what I know about it. So how do we deal with this? Once again, get experts to come in, get people that live in the neighborhood where they've been affected. Get input from them. What do you see? When does the water start running? How hard does it have to run? And now, how do we manage that runoff? Once again, that's where we go in and get experts or someone that's experienced in that field to give us, town council, suggestions, this is what you need to do. So once again, I'm not an expert in that field, but we need input from the people that it's affecting.
Thank you, Mr. Frenissich.
Fortunately, we do have experienced town engineers on staff who can give us the input that we need to make the appropriate decisions about stormwater management. Most of the problems we have in Christiansburg are due to poor planning and to lax development standards. And that's causing us quite a problem now, especially with these more strict standards that are coming down from the state Department of Environmental Quality. They're going to cost the town a lot of money, and we're really going to have to be creative with how we go forward, whether it means passing the costs along to developers or raising taxes or what have you. Hopefully it won't come to that, but I think that the town can be proactive and creative with both use of materials and landscaping, and trying to retrofit a lot of the problems that exist in stormwater management, and really making sure that the standards are high going forward with good planning and holding developers to those standards.
Any additional?
15 seconds all I need. I want to be real clear that Mr. Nelson and his department, things are getting a lot better, in my opinion. But again, as what David mentioned, our development plans have to be submitted. If they are properly scrutinized by our professionals that are in place at that time, then they have to take into effect those externalities. It shouldn't be a surprise when we have an issue like we have with the depot. It should be something that we already knew about because we properly evaluated what was going on at the time of the submission of the plan. So this thing shouldn't sneak up on us, and all of a sudden we have a flooded building.
I'd like to.
Yes, Mr. Sykes.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
The standards that are being referred to are called MS4 standards. It requires localities to have a master stormwater management plan and not just have it on paper, but it's going to be a living document that's going to be enforced. It has to be enforced. It's going to be measured by the state. And people are very nervous about that, but I will tell you, as I float around during my day job and hear localities, Christiansburg is a noted leader in addressing the MS4 requirements. That's very important, as well as requiring over-detention.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Hubbard, a somewhat related question. What role do you think the town should play in increasing environmental awareness and addressing environmental impacts?
I think the town is doing things in that direction. I think environment is important for everyone. I'm going to bring up the trash pickup, the garbage pickup, the first thing that's on my mind. I think most of you are aware that starting next spring, we're going to have an automatic garbage pickup, and everybody's going to have a uniform garbage can. It's going to be uniform the way, right now I hear every couple months, somebody will come to me and say, hey, I went to the guy who lives next door to me, he had his garbage out and the dogs got into it and ripped the bags up, and they got garbage all over the place right now. By putting this new facility in here, it's going to end things of that nature. So I think that is one of the big steps that we're doing right now, is just working on how our garbage pickup and also our recycling. That's another whole point.
Thank you. Mr. Stipes.
The key to environmental protection in our community starts with our ordinance. I think with the new stuff that goes in, a lot of things are grandfathered in town, and that's the town's responsibility to deal with that. But with new developments, our development ordinance is tightening up. I agree with the trash pickup. We've had a big problem with tidiness. and people using other people's service, and that's coming to an end. Everyone will have a trash pickup. You're not going to see crows out there eating out of people's trash and making a mess of the streets. Our town is using a sludge process at our sewage treatment plant. We're actually generating energy with our sludge. It's a very important step in going green for our community. We're using smaller vehicles in town government, and we're talking about other things, but there's very specific measures the town has been taking to be more sustainable.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
As far as environmental cleanup, it seems like we have forgotten about vehicles that sitting around rusting. You come to this town, there's about 3 different ways you can come in, and there's vehicles parked in garages. They're sitting there for years and years, rusting away. Once again, this rust is getting into the environment. It's getting into the ground. It's getting into the water. Granted, some people can say these things were grandfathered in, but I think the town needs to look at something as far as getting old, rusting vehicles removed. That way, you won't have rust run into the groundwater, into your drinking water eventually. So we just need to take a good look at cleaning the town up itself. And yes, recycling's a good thing. We need to try that. I think we tried before and it worked out a little bit, and I believe it's still going on by a private company. The town could probably get involved also. They're supposed to have these new trucks coming in. It's going to take less people to operate those trucks. Thank you.
Mr. Francis.
I think the best way for a town of Christiansburg to raise awareness about the environment and environmental impact is to lead by example, both with good planning and hopefully eventually implementing town-wide recycling, but also expanding our pedestrian infrastructure so people don't have to rely on vehicles as much. Christiansburg could be a very connected community if we just put a little bit of focus and investment on pedestrian infrastructure. The ways are already there. We just need to put a little money into it. I think that we could redo our landscaping, plant trees, really kind of do things to offset some of the other things that, public works and buildings and parking lots that the town has to do, have a negative impact on the environment. And again, leading by example, not necessarily raising awareness directly, I think is the really way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
I'm kind of should be all over the map on this one, but a couple of points. We reduced the gas consumption of our fleet. Obviously, that's going to be an environmental factor, but it also saves us money on our budget. So that certainly has a 2-point plan there. Historically, as Mr. Sipes mentioned, we have grandfather provisions. You could submit a plan for development in an area, and you could wait and sit on that provision, that submission, and just wait for that to be approved when you felt like asking for it to be approved. State code allows you 6 months, and if you haven't acted upon it, it deems it waived. As of about a month ago, we finally took action on a meeting that a couple of us had called and requested, where now we send a letter and say if it's within 6 months, if you haven't answered our call for input on that subdivision plan, then that's over with. And therefore, you can't get around some of those updated provisions that we're enacting. I was on council for like 2 or 3 months when I was able to move, and I think Mr. Stipes seconded the SSAR requirements through VDOT. It allows pedestrian accommodations, and it's for the first time in our town's history, we actually have something on the books, which would be a mandate on that in that regard. Of course, as Mr. Francis put forth, allowing alternative access or alternative means of transportation is critical. Right now, we don't have bike paths. We don't have sidewalks. We have very limited means, and a lot of them that go to nowhere. So that is one issue in which we've actually put forward that I think is going to enhance us going forward.
Thank you. Any addition?
Yeah, well, I agree with what Mr. Hall said. Again, this town can use, maybe a question on that, more pedestrian pathways, bikeways. We have what's supposed to be sidewalks in this town, and they're not sidewalks. I've seen the citizens out patching these paths. So we need to really build sidewalks. The best we can do so people can walk and ride the bikes. Riding your bike, you're using less gas.
I would take 30 seconds, sir.
Please.
2 points. I wish I had an answer for why this town, when all this development was blowing up, our members of council at that time didn't actually put forth approving plans for pedestrian accommodations when we actually could have implemented it during the development phase. Number two, I'm a child advocate by trade. I'm very aggressive when it comes to advocating. And the reality is when we finally change our ideology that what we do today affects us tomorrow, although we might not have to enhance it or embrace it, we're passing that along to our children. We need a change in culture, in my opinion, in the town. Recycling efforts, again, woefully inadequate. I think we can take a step further in that regard as well.
Anyone else?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
One thing that we have not mentioned at all, which I think is very important, is recycling. And I'm not sure if Christiansburg has enough recycling places set up right now. I do have a word here that, of course, I think everybody, if anybody says, what does the town do good for you? The fall and the spring pickup is probably one of the most things that like people like more than anything else. I certainly know I do. And I don't want to put out any false pretenses here, but I think in the future, we're hoping that maybe we can have a monthly fall, spring pickup. So I think that recycling is a big, big thing to look into.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Stipes? And gentlemen, I'm not sure you'll have specific numbers available, but you'll get the thrust of the question. What is the percentage of properties that are occupied compared with those that are unoccupied, for lease, for sale, for rent? What's the dynamic of the real estate market?
I have absolutely and that's it.
Pardon?
I mean, we have a very, I have 2 minutes, I'll use this. We have a very healthy mix of residential products out in Christiansburg. Anyone who wants to live in Christiansburg, whether it's a mobile home or a $500,000 house, there's a place for you here. We hear that every day. We will take everybody. We're the Statue of Liberty for the New River Valley, which is fine. I love it. This is what makes us so special. But our land use mix, I would say, is ideal. It's actually very healthy on the commercial side, which allows us to keep our taxes at a reasonable rate, about half of what Blacksburg's is. And the rental market is a part of that. But we will take anybody to live in the town of Christiansburg, and I think that's what makes it special. Whether you're renting a home or whatever the product is, there's a place for you in Christiansburg.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
All right. If I understand the question correctly, as far as the percentage of unoccupied places, I have no idea the percentage number, but if you drive around town, we do have a lot of vacant buildings. You know, why do we have these vacant buildings? One, because businesses have left Christiansburg. And that leads me to another question. Why are businesses leaving Christiansburg? You know, we're supposed to be this town that we want people to come in, but it's just opposite. We got businesses leaving. Probably in the last, say 6 months, just throwing a number out, we probably had, 3 or 4 businesses to shut down and move out of town for whatever reason. Have we as a town gone out to find out, why are you leaving us? I'm not aware of us doing that. So the number, I can't give you a percentage, but I can tell you there's a lot of businesses, buildings that's vacant in town.
Thank you, Mr. Francis.
I also can't give you specific numbers as I'm not a realtor, unfortunately. But from my own observations, there are several areas in town where the ratio of empty buildings to occupied buildings is a bit alarming. For example, downtown. I would like to see that change and have a really vibrant downtown again. I think working with property owners and developers to bring in unique businesses that are going to make downtown a destination again will really help, fill those spaces and make it lively. I also know that in my neighborhood, you have some issues with elderly homeowners who have possibly died and the home is in the care of their family or it's tied up in an estate. And I don't know if there's anything that the town can do to see what can be done about freeing those up so that possibly new homeowners can move in. That would be something that could possibly be good to look into.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
The only thing I know from the legal context, what Mr. Francis just said, is it never works as quickly as it needs to. Things can be caught up in this court system for years, and I think 2 years is usually about the max now. As far as the commercial, I don't know the percentages either, and you already knew that. It doesn't seem to me to be a glaring problem. Not when I drive around or when I walk around doing door to door. Most of the houses I go into are field. A lot of families. Again, I think we service all levels of of income. I don't think that we're certainly top heavy or bottom heavy or middle heavy. I guess some would say we're probably middle heavy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're a blue collar town. As far as the commercial issues, I mean, I'm thinking, comes to mind is right across from Arby's in Christiansburg, that big area that's just vacant. It's used to be vibrant, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, I mean, not Barnes and Noble, but Books and Me, and I remember now it's kind of it caters to a seasonal. I don't know, but it's private property. As far as the town, we can offer some type of enhancements to the surrounding area, but we don't have control over private property rights. I mean, and I'm a big believer in private property rights. They have to respect their ownership of those premises as long as it's not a detriment to the town or a nuisance to the town.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard?
Concerning real estate, I really think that Christiansburg has a good mixture. We have a good mixture of apartments and homes, and even better, we have different price ceilings on different homes. Christiansburg is very available for first-year homers, people who are just getting their homes for the first time. And that's what makes Christiansburg a little bit special to Blacksburg, because Blacksburg does not have that animal really, like we do. So people can move into that. The question might be about the retail is over there at Marketplace. And that is something that really the town is working on, all that big empty space there. And believe me, we feel just about as bad about it as anybody, and they are working on that. It would be great, if we could get some big retailer to move in there. It'd be really helpful for everybody.
Thank you. Any additional comments, Mr. Francis?
I would like to see that if there are some properties of note that have been vacant, say whether it's retail or residential, that there could be a mechanism put in place for the town to look at it and see, hey, why is this property sitting empty for so long? Maybe make sure to try and get in touch with the property owner and say, can we help you get somebody in here? Is there some way we can incentivize, I know you're probably getting a tax write-off for it being empty, but is there any way we can help you?
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a quick comment. I'd like to recognize our planning commission, which I would put up against any planning commission in the Commonwealth at this point, and what they're doing to advise us on creative uses for rental units above retail areas. And our planning commission is helping us make better decisions to address the needs and to get people into the downtown area, for instance. That's one thing specific. But I want to recognize the strength of our planning commission in helping us make wise land use decisions, including housing.
In 15 seconds, the only thing that I could see that we could do as a council, without putting our hands into the private pot, again, downtown, as far as trying to recruit business to come to downtown, we do have the opportunity to relax some of the requirements on the parking restrictions right now. Whereas a business can't come to downtown unless there's a certain number of spots available. Right now, we can relax some of those if we felt like it, to allow, again, more recruitment.
Thank you. Mr. Bishop, Cambria is often treated as a stepchild. How are you going to change that?
Cambria is treated as a stepchild. Now, I, as one person, can't do it alone, but we need to, once again, get out and let the public know that there is what we call old Christiansburg, old Cambria advertising. What do we have down there to offer people? There, the depot, there's a couple sign shops, a restaurant down there you can go to eat. A lot of people don't know that part of town exists. Maybe just need to put up signs out to point in that direction. Unless you live here, you drive it every day, you never heard of Cambria, unless you grew up here. So what do? Once again, we go out and advertise, we inform the public. We do have this little area of Christiansburg, Cambria, whatever you want to call it. There are some things you can do down there for us, going somewhere to eat, getting signs made up, visit the train depot, visit barber shops.
Thank you.
Need to do.
Mr. Francis.
Cambria used to be its own downtown, completely separate from Christiansburg. And I think that it needs to be treated as a downtown area. And one thing that's already been talked about at the Planning Commission level is rezoning Cambria as a central business district, B3 or B2. Probably got that mixed up. Anyway, as a central business district, because you have the density there that a downtown area has. So it shouldn't be held to the same zoning ordinances that the rest of the town is. And that just will stifle the development and make people want to build parking lots all over the place. I think another way we could really help Cambria is connecting it to the rest of the town via pedestrian ways. I think along Depot Street you could have pedestrian infrastructure connecting it both to downtown, to the aquatic center, and to the rec center along Cambria Street as well. I think having that connectivity would be really great to help bring Cambria more into the fold, per se.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Somewhat of a takeoff. We currently do have signs in place that will direct people to the historic Cambria area. In our tourism initiative, tourism plan, strategic tourism plan, Cambria was well represented. Ms. Dorsett's in the audience, and she was a member on that strategic tourism committee, if you will. Again, as far as treating like a stepchild, I think that's a loaded question. Is there things we could do as a town? Perhaps. We've done certain things already. Again, signs, we've had maps. We have maps that, telling people what's located down there, what they can do down in the Cambria area. Pedestrian accommodations, again, these are things we could have done, things we could do going forward, but as far as an individual plan for Cambria, I don't have one at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard.
100 years ago, Cambria really was the center of this area. Cambria was Christiansburg, and that's where the trains came in. There were hotels there, there were everything there. Then the train stopped. Well, we do have some sort of good news here, and I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but right now, they're trying to increase the rail service from Lynchburg into Roanoke, and then eventually they're hoping it will come through Christiansburg to Radford and go all the way to Withville or even past that. So I think if we all support that we want to get, and that's a thing, as Christiansburg gets larger, transportation is going to be a big thing, a big factor, and the rail service is going to be a key. And that way will be a real plus for Cambria and get it into its own right like it was 100 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Stipes.
I was corrected, having grown up in Blacksburg and returning to the area in 1994. After a couple of years, I was corrected that the proper pronunciation is Cambria. And I do know about the history of it, having come in here as a kid to visit and so forth. But we're fortunate to have two downtown areas, and I do agree with the statement that it's been treated as a stepchild. Fortunately, we have some cheerleaders down there, which anything meaningful it starts organically and it becomes like a snowball gathering to itself. And I can tell you, it has a different feel to it now than it did when I returned in 1994. It's got some mojo going to it. I think we need to support the cheerleaders. We need to support the special events that are down here. And I think this question is moving some enhancement opportunities up on my radar screen. We need to set the pace, as you said, lead by example, and then some further investments in enhancing the area to make it more accessible and attractive to spend some time there.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Well, we're to the point where we have closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to offer that statement, and we will begin as we started this session with Mr. Bishop.
Once again, I want to thank everyone that sponsored this forum, and I want to thank you, the citizens, for coming out and listening to us. I'm sure you've heard good things and bad things. I feel that we all sitting on this interview panel today, it is an interview, as far as I'm concerned, have your best intentions here. This is not the first time I've ran for office. I didn't get the first time, second time, hopefully I will. I'm not a politician by any means. I'm a citizen of this town that cares for this town. I want it to be open to the citizens, get information you need. We shouldn't go behind closed doors and make these closed door deals, because we heard about, as they said before, how we're going to fill this number 4 slot when it comes up. It needs to be open so the public can have input. Don't go behind closed doors and fill it. To me, it sends the wrong message. So once again, me sitting on this board, I'm asking you for your vote. And thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Francis.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. It's been an experience. Thank you to Charles for moderating. Christiansburg has a lot coming on the horizon. Montgomery County is growing one of the fastest rates in the Commonwealth, and Christiansburg is going to be taking on a lot of that growth because Blacksburg, frankly, is unaffordable to most people, and is also busting at the seams already. But we really need to be planning for that growth, not how are we going to cope with it when it gets here. We know it's coming. We need to deal with it now. So I think to really have good planning is what I'd really like to focus on. Along with that comes having a vibrant downtown. I already have a history of helping with downtown. I founded Downtown Christiansburg Inc. We're really trying to get some life back there. You know, it's a young organization, but we've already got some momentum. And I think with a little focus from the town, both in time and money, downtown Christiansburg could be a really vibrant place again. And I'd also like to see Christiansburg really take a hard look at its budget and not just do a year-to-year budget. Really take things item by item, go out a few years, 5, 10, 15, see how each change is going to affect things going forward, how we can get out of the red, how we can stop pulling from the reserves to pay for things. I think that's just an unsustainable way to do business. You would never have that in a private company. We really need to hold Christiansburg to the same standard. So thank you all again for coming out tonight, and I hope you can vote for me on November 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you for everybody being here, the League of Women Voters, Mr. Warren, and everyone that's decided to stay for 2 hours and listen to us discuss and talk. I've been quoted before saying I detest politics. I don't care for it. I'm not a politician. I'm blunt, and I'll try to be very honest. That's just the way that I am. I'm very proud of my record since being on council. I consider myself a councilman of action. I like to put things forth and I like to drive things home. I don't like to just sit on things and just kind of see what happens, see what flows. I think that we have the opportunity as being council people to drive policy, and we drive policy based on citizen input. I'm very open. I'm very transparent with my thoughts. If you ask me, you'll get an answer. I don't hide the ball very well. Perhaps I'm not smart enough to do that. Since I've been on council, I've insisted on open government and transparency. I don't think that goes beyond question. I have pushed forth, and we've now acquired the Revenue Recovery Program for EMS. That means that there's going to be no cost to upgrade and enhance our EMS for the foreseeable future, period. No cost to taxpayers. I've got the SSAR protocols adopted through VDOT, which ensures pedestrian accommodations going forward. Don't know why it wasn't done 10 years ago. It should have been. Parks Recreation, I championed that effort for 62 acres over there on 114 at no cost to citizens. There's a plan in place, regardless of what you hear. If you want to know about it, ask me. It is not going to cost us a penny going forward. We have a plan in place to sell off a certain number of acres there to reinvest that into the property. I presented that when I first asked for that property to be purchased. I demand a conservative approach to financials in the town. I treat the town budget like I would my home budget. If you don't have it, you don't spend it. I was ridiculed about 3 years ago for the asking about this capital improvement projects. We had put forth about 5% into what should have been 20% over a 5-year plan. This past year, we borrowed $6 million for capital improvements. I don't say that because I want to toot my own horn, but that's the reality. Is we have to make tough decisions, and we have to demand accountability for those decisions. That's why I bring things like the Aquatic Center up. It's not anybody that works there's fault. It's not Ms. Caldwell's fault. Council failed back then, and I'm just not going to. That's going to have a foreseeable impact on us going forward. And I think that we need to remember that we can't make the same mistake twice.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard.
Firstly, I would like to give Court a plus on this piece of property that we bought that's over there behind Merchants. I mean, that is going to be something great for us. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 10 years, but it's going to be good, and we did do something looking ahead. On the other hand, I want to just go over 2 points that we've covered this evening. One thing is concerning the Aquatic Center, too. And I think it's important. We all know it's a financial problem. But I'm going to tell you, the people of the Aquatic Center, they have meetings planned here. They are working to try to find additional ways to raise revenue. And this was not in our hands, how it was built and like that, but it's there, and we need to work with it, and we need to make the thing more viable. The second thing I would like to talk about is, we sort of kicked it around a little bit about downtown shopping. I'm not sure if a lot of you are familiar with this. I wasn't familiar with this until I got on council, about the zoning laws. For every store there's supposed to be so many parking places. All right? If you go out to the mall, they have to have so many, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. The antique store that's right there in downtown Christiansburg, they have 3 parking spots. That's all they have, okay? So the planning commission has worked on this to try to make it a little bit better. So it really, if he wants to expand it all, he can on the rules that we've got right now because of the parking laws. all right, and the zoning laws, and that's what we're trying to help out on that situation. One other thing I thought maybe would come out tonight is the Christiansburg Farmers Market. I think it's important, I really do. And believe me, I have been trying. And Laddie over there, Corinne's, has been trying to. And that's one reason I would like to stay on council longer here, to see if we can make the farmers market a little bit more. And one other thing is the Depot Park down there, right below. I've sort of try to help work on
Time,
it with
Steve.
Margaret. And
Thank you very much. Mr. Stipes.
When you first run for council, you're selling something. You're selling some kind of change or some kind of hope that things will be better. I'm going to read some things that have happened on council since I've been on and let the listener decide for themselves if it was coincidence or if there's something more to it than that. The Huckleberry Trail extension will be complete at the Recreation Center by the summer of 2014, probably a little sooner. There are plans in place to bring it downtown. Route 114, Peppers Ferry Road improvements have been completed. How did $14 million come here out of the sky? I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Town ordinance updates now require with the bicycle pedestrian facilities. Councilman Hall is correct in noting SSAR, that stands for Secondary Street Acceptance Requirements. Those, with Councilman Hall advent, we had the support to pass those. Those were brought up in previous years before Councilman Hall came on, and I do, that is a compliment. The support is there now to transform our community. Focused sidewalk development in the downtown neighborhoods, a revamped town website that did all the things I said before, and more, and started the ball rolling on opening up putting on glass doors on Town Hall. And also hiring a public relations manager, public information officer has been absolutely awful. It's been huge. And the purchase of 60 acres, I give Councilman Hall credit for bringing that to our attention. You needed support on council, and you got it. And that is a game changer in the town. And I am honored to serve this community, and we'll continue to do so if it's your pleasure. If not, I'll find something else to do on Tuesday nights.
Thank you. Would you join me in giving all 5 candidates a round of applause? Thank you. On behalf of the sponsors of tonight's forum, our sincere thanks to you, the audience, for your attention and questions, and to you, the candidates, for your participation and for your strong commitment to public service. We thank you. Good night.